but I do want to introduce you. So I know you are an extraordinary artist, extremely
Oh, thank
intelligent, highly talented, really in touch with the spiritual realm, and very grounded, very mother maternal, and into your family and from New York. What else would you add to that?
thank you so much. And likewise, I there's so many mirrors and reflections. And I so deeply resonate with your work as a yoga practitioner, as a movement coach, fitness coach, as a mom. Like I just there's so much of your work and your design that I resonate with.
And
And
you
I
did my logo, the Starseed. My original yoga studio was called Starseed Yoga, and that
right.
upside down triangle that you had designed was actually superimposed on the wall as a sticker.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
That is
so like we had it was like one big room with an altar, and then there was like mirrors, and then the back had this. I'll send you a picture of it, but it was located in Michigan.
that's
And I actually had
that
two
is so cool.
locations, and the second one didn't have, it was like before we moved to the triangle logo, so it was only just the design that was sort of freeform. I don't know if you remember that.
Wow.
And then and
Yes.
then you said, "Hey, I want this in a triangle," and then you put it in the triangle, and then put the colors. And
Mhm.
then so I rebranded a couple of times. I just go through these, it's my Virgo stellium. I blame it to that, but
And divine channeling.
it is. And I just think like we're not fixed to these things. Like I felt so attached to that name Starseed, and it blew up. Like that word Starseed, like a lot of people use that word, and it just was like attracting. Yoga is very grounded. And I'm very much a fan of like quantum and, attracting who you are, not just what you're saying and the word starseed, but who you are. And in the being of it, a lot of starseed to me means embodiment, that you're not superhuman and not able to be service to others because you're so in this space of I'm from another dimension and that whole thing. And I think you can get lost in that. And part of the
Definitely.
star seed thing is like that a little bit. And so I wanted to move away from that sort of and be in a more grounded space. So anyway, I read,
Definitely.
yeah, and then but I kept the logo because I loved the logo. I just love it.
Definitely. I think our holistic health and connecting the body meridians to yoga, to these healthy practices that can ground us while we're also integrating everything, we're becoming aware of. It's huge. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was our first collab back in 20 like 16 or so. I don't even know when it was.
Right. Yeah, that was a few years
That's
ago. That
wild.
was
I know. It's just so
it's
wild.
so cool.
Hmm.
It's so cool to see how like everything comes together in divine timing, and there's so many connections that are made over time that then it's like once it's time to co-create a new um collaboration or project, it's just amazing like how things line up and
Yeah.
how it connects more and more people. The star seed um, movement or whatever you want to call it that so many people resonate with as far as like being a seed of change and like activating like a different way of living and a different way of being that encompasses like a beyond planet Earth awareness is it's a movement that exactly as you said, it can be overwhelming. It can be like an out of body experience. We have to be able to be fully human and come back into the body to be able to integrate any of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, totally. That's what I love about these cards. Like it really inspires action and movement in a way that just inspires holistic health.
Yes. Full, like
Totally.
equally as grounded as we are spiritual. Because that's really the task, I feel like, for us in the new age. I don't know if you want to call it the new age, but moving
Right?
forward, like that the ancients in yoga, we talk about the Kali Yuga. It's sort of this idea of the end of an era, which was like 2012, according to David Wilcock. Um,
Right.
yeah, the end of the Mayan calendar year, and that's when it started to begin, and that we're in sort of this portion of it where it gets worse before it gets better, but then there's like this 26,000 year golden cycle where things,
Huge eras, cycles. Yeah.
yeah. So
It's really important to study, I think. It's really integral. It just connects everything that's happening right now at this time.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
So I
definitely the
love that
meridian.
you resonate with the cards. So we kind of already, so we collaborated on the logo and then we collaborated a little bit on these cards. I mean, it was like I did it and then okay, I'm gonna be real with you. I was like scared to show you. I did the whole deck, which was
What?
channeled within like 4 weeks. It wasn't a very long
Oh,
time at
wow.
all. Yeah, it was
I
like
love
really
that.
fast because the
Mhm.
idea came and then I just automatically just started executing on it. The first draft was just the plain JPEGs, like the raw. I was like, originally I was going to contact you and say, hey, do you have like a list of those things? And
Mhm.
I went to your link and saw that you actually sell them like as people get them as tattoos, which is wild
Right?
to put
Yeah.
that on your
Oh,
body.
anything.
It's so
Blankets for meditation videos, for like wooden, oh my gosh. Yeah, it's like unlimited. Yeah.
really, what have other people
Anything.
done? Like that's incredible.
Um, well, I've had a few like co-creation kind of projects where I've created, designs similar to like a logo. But it's just there's been so many. There's been dozens since I really like started this connection with crop circles and digital art, going from paintings to digital art, and then combining everything in between. There's so many different like meditative practices that can involve just art in general. There's so many like endless different ideas and collaborations. I've been really honored and blessed to have um dozens and dozens, like many co-creations that I've
Really?
been a part of.
That's
Yeah,
dope.
I
Like what?
think, well, crop circles are magnetic. Everything we've been talking about with the electromagnetic field, and exactly like you said about attracting what it is you want to embody. You're a leader in representing this and teaching people how to embody this electromagnetic energy. And so the crop circles are also magnetic in nature because of their symbolism. And I love how we have this very clear understanding that I think we can share with more people about the retina, the third eye, and meditation with just symbols in general that kind of follow like a flower of life or a circular kind of energy, for lack of a better word, since it's all visual, it's all beyond words.
Yes.
I think it's something that we can share with more people, and then the connections between our body meridians, the Earth's grid, with so many people resonating with star seeds, people who are spiritually inclined, being in different places in the Earth, like a grid. It is just all completely connected, and I see how it could flow like in 4 weeks. You said that is like divine flow, just like channeling through you. I think it's a connection that just like you received and created like so beautifully, you know.
I felt like a sense of urgency. It was really strange. It's like there shouldn't
Oh,
be any
wow.
urgency, but like when you have a sense of urgency, it's like you've got to do something with that. It's some
It's
sort
like
of call.
exciting. Like a yes, I feel this with all of my like any new co-creation or project. Or even like I have a project that's coming back, something that I did, a commission I did last year, that is coming back into my like energy field now, I think soon. That's like a continued like logo co-creation, and it's like this feeling of being ignited, like in an excited way. I don't know if it was for you like a fire or like a um it's so hard to put into words.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's
Yeah.
Kundalini energy. Like So there is actually a technical term if we really want to go down this road. But like the
Yep.
brain starts to develop this cerebral spinal fluid. It's doing it right now as we're talking. And then the more
Wow.
you move it intentionally and like with breathing techniques in particular, the more that the elements within our body, so the earth, water, and fire, they all meet in the hips mainly. And so as you move your hips and you move just your body in general, even if you're a weightlifter or a runner, basically it starts mixing, I guess you could say, with this fluid that's going up and down anyways. And it increases the amount of fluid in the body. So there's times where like you don't have to be doing Kundalini yoga. It's just that's an accelerated way, very focused way to get there. But you could get there through any means of movement and being intentional with it. And like artists, I think art it does that in a way, maybe not like moving the cerebral spinal fluid, but kind of a similar process of fusing prana, which is like sort of an etheric, life force animation of our
Chi,
soul.
chi.
Yeah,
Yes. Yep.
with
Prana.
the actual sort of neutral fluid that's being developed. We are just neutral beings, and that prana animates us as beings. And so I think that's what art is that like whatever medium we're using is neutral, but whatever you're infusing into it gives it the soul. That's what the codes are. That's why I named it soul codes, because that's what it is.
Yes. Everything I've learned, especially the past 2 years in becoming a Reiki practitioner, that ki, that chi, prana, life force energy, infusing that into art has totally changed the game for me.
Mm. How
Um,
did it change it?
it's so beyond words. It's so hard for me because I'm so visual. It's hard to put it into words.
Mhm.
But in Reiki practice, we also, we're using symbols that are like hand movements and motions
Mhm.
to remind us of a specific focused healing energy. And also with the Hindu chakras,
Mhm.
the lights, and of course colors. As an artist, as a fellow artist, anything that like you design with the cards that are connected to the colors of specific chakras, you're going to have a more like a clear focus, like you design that came through in the cards. There are so many of the cards that are just I've taken time to sit with them and kind of talk with them.
Yeah,
you
I
know and
appreciate that.
and there's so much like chakra healing that comes through not only the body's meridians and the connection you've made with that, but there's specific colors and chakras that so clearly, like there's a golden pink one that's connected to the small intestine meridian, and there's
I
just
love
like this
that one.
powerful solar plexus energy that
Mhm.
I see come through. And that's also is something I experience with, seeing colors, visualizing colors to send that specific healing energy to specific chakras is, and the symbols that are, symbols that are everywhere and anywhere program us the fastest, I think, in terms of like what we see. I think a lot of like society's commercialization, there's been a lot of like subliminal like messaging and programming with symbols that I think there's different spectrums in which symbols can be used. Symbols in the McDonald's Golden Archway can push someone to eat something that's obviously unhealthy, right? But then symbols that are infused with intention, as you were just saying, right? And healing intention that are literally connected to the earth in this way that land artists have been designing intentionally into the earth as a practice. It connects holistic health with, I think, just a drastically different movement that's emerging with the new age, as you say, the Kali Yuga cycles and the shift that we're experiencing right now. I think crop circles are something that we're all, or many of us, are drawn to because they're so magnetic. And I think they represent more of a holistic grounded, more of a spiritual and also holistic kind of electromagnetic energy.
Yo, that's
Right.
so much you said there, and I'm still on the first sentence of, well, a couple of things stood out, but the first thing was the land artists. So,
Right.
yeah, and like we talked about this off, well, I can't remember when, but a lot of people tell me like the first thing that was said to me, and I think a lot of it is that the universe is reflecting back to me that you got to be able to protect your energy and be able to be so strong and confident in what you're doing to refute things. Because the
Mm.
first thing I got was actually from a family member that was like, those are fake, right? Like crop circles, they already debunked it. Yeah, like
Right.
debunked it. And I was like, and then they sent me an article about the debunking saying that these two guys did it in the middle of the night or whatever. And I'm like, all
The
right,
dozen days. Yeah. Yep.
like that, but still, like those guys did it. They cut the wheat at a certain angle, like on this huge plot of land in England. And like that's pretty badass. Like, how did they know that it was the exact geometry of our stomach meridian line in the golden Fibonacci sequence ratio or whatever? Like, what? That's so
Exactly. Like how are they? Exactly.
like
So this
they
is
have a
this is
measuring.
layers of
He goes, it
it's
was drones. And I said, but that was like in the 80s where they didn't have like drones, you know what
right.
I mean? So how did they
The
like how do they do it? These land artists. So there's actual ones where we don't know, right? And then there's ones that have been debunked because land artists actually go and do that. Is that what you're saying?
well, here's the thing. Like anything that's polarized, it's more it's not so it's not so this or that. It's not people are making them or ETs are making them. It's both. And there's also land artists that are channeling spiritual energies and beings, let's say, when they go out into the field at like 2, 3, 4 a.m. and they sneak into these huge fields to create these huge, elaborate, incredible, beautiful artistic designs.
Exactly.
As artists that have studied horticulture. And the thing is that they definitely prefer to stay low key. There's definitely artists that do not want their name, publicized as a brand, as like these are my crop circle designs. And I think the reasoning for that is because of their spiritual connection to their work. And I think what they're channeling and what they're doing, it's something that they want to inspire this type of, energy of mystery, to keep people, interested and attracted to these magnetic designs, which have also been proven to be found in the fields made by orbs, light beings, spiritual beings. This has also been proven. So it's so much more complicated than just are they made by people or are they made by ETs? The answer is it's both. And it's also a co-creation between all of us as multidimensional beings, and channeling and co-creating with these beings, many of which I've seen in dreams. That's a whole nother, rabbit hole.
You mean
but
like the beings are working with our collective consciousness to be able to produce them in a way that we may understand it.
Inner stands. 100%. Yes, that's the best, most like perfect word to express it, is like an understanding of like a message, like a code that you receive. And so, yeah, that's how I was introduced to it. A friend just told me one day, you should look at crop circles before you go to sleep, and just see what happens, right? But it's interesting. I was invited onto a Star Bloom presentation. My friends Clara and Spencer host like an annual Star Bloom presentation for anyone that resonates with kind of like starseed or cosmic multidimensional topics. And they had me come on just to talk about like who is making the crop circles and how. And it was such a cool presentation. I just kind of dove into how basically what I just said. It's really both. And that's where we're integrating. It's like we are multidimensional ourselves as artists.
Mm.
And so I think the many of the land artists all over the world that are creating some of the crop circles, not all of them, because so many are proven to have been impossible to be man-made, because of timing, because of circumstance, how they've been photographed from above in helicopters, certain like circumstances,
Mhm.
and of course video. It's it's all connected.
Yeah.
But the channeling, the same way you channeled the cards so quickly, it just all poured out of you within a matter of weeks. I think it's very similar for the land artists that go out into the fields at like three, when the veil is thin. Um, and without sharing too much of what a land artist shared with me in detail, because it is a spiritual experience and I want to honor that for them. But I will say that there's a jellyfish being connected to one of the jellyfish crop circle designs, which so motivates me to like co-create with you with animals and crop circles. That's such a focus I'm guided to dive into with you. And yoga and movement and the animals that are represented in the crop circles. But the jellyfish specifically was a royal blue, like electric, beautiful blue color light being, like a floating jellyfish. Um, that,
That the master card in the card deck, is that supposed to be a
yeah.
jellyfish? Oh my God, that's wild.
Which part?
Hang on, let me grab the deck 1 second.
I know you utilize a few of my favorites that are the birds.
Like this one
Oh wow, that could
is
also
the
be the jelly.
jellyfish. That's
You're
fun.
right.
Yeah, I know. You have
Oh, I have
actually
goosebumps
quite
right
a
now.
few in the pack that, yeah, quite
Yo,
a few. So,
that could
which one
totally
are you
also.
referring to? Are you
Oh my
referring
God, I
to?
see it in such a different way now. That's crazy. I mean, wow. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. That's not the specific one I was thinking of, but now I
Okay.
see that one also as like the connection between air and ocean, and how, it can be the birds, but it's also the jellyfish. It's both.
Yo, that's
Oh my,
awesome.
yo.
I love that connection. I love that you made that connect there. Because
Also
so
a
these land artists, do
that
they
one. Yeah.
study like sacred geometry, or how do they know what to do? Like even just from a logistic standpoint, are they using like an axe, or how do they do it? Like it's wild.
Well, the beauty of it is that there's so many artists all over the world that I know for a fact I haven't even touched the surface of communicating and connecting with all the different artists in the world that have been experimenting with crop circles and putting them into the fields. But just from like some of the chats that I've had with artists, I think that there's so many different ways of, there's different styles that I've noticed patterns. I remember talking to someone that was familiar, much more familiar than I am with the different land artists, and I found like patterns that maybe like a dozen or so crop circles that had like a similar shape inside of them. That was like an oval with like a crescent moon inside. And he said, "Oh, that's so great. You found, all of these crop circles were made by this one person, by this artist." And that was kind of like their signature like style that I recognized, that was incorporated through a lot of different ones.
Okay.
But the means in which they're creating them, I mean, it varies. Everyone is different. And so I've definitely learned that there are some creators in England that have been designing these for like decades, that study horticulture and the sacred sites in England. So this is where the meridians and the earth grid lines, this is all very real. This is something I'm sure they've studied. As far as my personal experience, I've made them on the beach in the sand and meditated within them.
Stuff.
But I haven't been to England myself. I haven't been to like Australia or Italy or certain places where there's been a lot of them found. I think the most I would say is in England near Stonehenge. Um, so there's obviously a connection to the Earth meridians and ley lines, and and all of that is surfacing right now. There's so much information from David Wilcox, like you said, from um oh my gosh, Sergeant. I call him Sergeant Star, but I think his name is Jerry.
Okay, I've never heard
Forgive me
of them.
his last name, but there's like a star magic healing movement. That's like another quantum holistic energy healing movement that
Okay.
you know is talking about the grid lines and the dragon lines of the planet and the Earth's grid, which I'm no expert on, but there's clearly a connection.
So David talks about that in the middle of each planet. Now, I actually am in this like Facebook group of people who don't believe that the planets are actually circular. Like they believe that
Oh boy.
it's like a sphere. Yeah, which is a whole other topic, but David talks about the spherical shape of a planet and that there's like a Merkaba inside of each one. And that like if you look at Mount Olympus on Mars, there's like some spot on Jupiter and Neptune. I can't remember the names of them, but those are like the points of these places where the triangles meet in the Merkaba, and that England is one of the points. And then on the reverse side of that, like if you think about Atlantis and Lemuria, right?
Yes.
Atlantis was like the exact opposite is like the Devil's Sea or something like that. And
Oh
it has
wow.
similar type of ships disappearing and whatnot. So he talks about that it's the Merkaba and the sacred geometry of that within the earth. And I'm
Wow.
one of those people that anything, just like you said earlier, we really don't know. None of us know. We don't know if it's round. Have any of us actually been to space? Like, we don't know what it really looks like.
In different lifetimes, in some like Akashic memory, we have, but
In
in this,
some iteration, right? But like,
yeah,
but think about it. It's like, think about how much Earth shifted and how much we've learned about history and how much history is sort of altered with these new findings. And then there's people tampering with the timelines. And then there's this whole idea of the Hadron Collider actually messing with the fabric of time and reality. You know what I mean? So there's
right.
like,
Then you really get into like parallel realities, and yeah, it's
so
just
we don't know what the truth is. We have to use our own discernment. The middle of the earth could be like inner caves of like beings living in there and stuff. Like we really don't know. So it could
our
be.
oceans, especially, man. Like,
I
yeah,
really believe the ocean is space. That's why the jellyfish, like, because like, what is in the
definitely.
ocean? Like, it's wild. Like, I thought about that the other day because there's a very healing element to it. Like, it doesn't matter how I feel. Whenever I go there, it's like it's neutralized. It's like so cleansing. And I was really pulled here. It wasn't like, oh, I think Florida is really beautiful and my dad lives here. Those were huge pieces of it, but it was in the Saturn Jupiter conjunct in 2020 because I came here during COVID because Michigan shut down and it was just like wild energy in
Right,
Michigan. And
right.
Florida was still open. Florida like was operating as usual, like with crowds at the beach and so anyway, I went to Siesta Key where because that's where my parents lived, and the sand is white. So, and it's like actually, so my stepmom is actually a holistic acupuncturist. She became, after years of being in corporate, she actually is an owner of a clinic here in Tampa where she does
So
acupuncture.
beautiful.
She's got codes and knowledge. And so she was basically like, yeah, Siesta Key is like crystal sand. It's 99% crystal, and it's allegedly known as like the lost crystals of Atlantis. And I'm like, what is Atlantis? I had no idea what that was. And I didn't equate Atlantis with Florida. I think maybe when I heard David talk about it, it would be sort of an ethereal other planet type thing. I just didn't even think it was like relevant to today's timeline.
Mhm.
And then anyway, fast forward to that video I sent you about Hollywood, Florida. That guy main thesis is
Wild. I was
called,
born in Florida, and
I
this
know you're
whole
born in Florida, and that
also,
specific place with the circle, that was so wild.
I think I sent you like, of course it's a circle or something like that. I
That
didn't
guy,
believe
his
it,
whole
right?
thesis is that Florida is the Garden of Eden. It's like the original Garden of Eden, and
Yeah.
it's Atlantis. So he goes through all these documentaries basically proving that thesis with his DNA being awakened to being Atlantean. I think he was definitely Atlantean. But he's a young hippie guy, like
Right.
but anyway, it all circled back. No pun
It circled back.
circle back. And I like
Yeah,
really feel connected here. I feel like my neurons make like a connection.
that makes so much sense. Well, water is life, and everything you said about the ocean, I deeply resonate with. That's exactly it. Just water is life. We are mostly water. We are meant to have this fluid kind of connection and
Yeah.
know that we're all connected in this way. Because as soon as you realize that um, our collaboration, it's like a million droplets coming together to form an ocean wave to make the change, to make the waves, so to speak, right? As soon as we start thinking in those terms, we're connected and we're collaborating instead of competition. We're aligned in more of a holistic, healthy. It makes me think of everything that happened in Michigan around 2020. Like you said, that was so intense with the water, with everything that was happening. It's like it your
The water and
mood,
Flint.
your the way you listen to like instinctually as a mother and the way that you created that move and the way that you were attracted to, just everything. It's all connected. It's so
Well, that's what
inspiring.
the upside down triangle originally was like that was the logo was water because I'm from
Oh,
the Philippines
right.
actually. Like I'm
The
actually
alchemical symbol, yes.
yeah, and
Yep.
so and the Philippines is connected. It's a bunch of different lands connected by water. So we're like water people. And also I love
Oh, that's so
Michigan is
beautiful.
surrounded by water, and so is New York in some instances, like where you're at.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so I love the water, but it also represents the Kundalini descent, meaning we're not just so focused on ascending and this ascension, we have to also understand that it's coming, we incarnated here to experience these feelings, water feelings, sacral chakra type
Yes.
energies.
Emotion. Mm.
And then as I started studying Kundalini further, there's actually this hidden chakra system, and one of them is called the Hara chakra. And it's right behind, it's like in between the root and the sacral, and it's behind the belly button. And it stands for the transpersonal cords that connect into the earth grid of where you're at. And then also to every person, every being that you interface with, every animal that you've had as a pet, or anybody that you even resonate with. Like it doesn't even have to be a physical chord.
Is this the golden chakra? I think I've heard of this, but I haven't fully like now I'm gonna dive
You
into
gotta dive in. It's a good one. It's it's all
it.
about like that because I think that our society has become very transactional with
Yes.
the internet for whatever reason. That's just sort of a byproduct of us not being, I think it's a humanity issue than it is a technology issue. But that whole idea that people are disposable and stuff like that, it
Mhm.
basically debunks that because everybody has a cord to everything, even if you're hearing these words and you don't know who I am and it just came up on your algorithm, that's a mirror of what's in your subconscious. You are
Exactly. It's
the
frequency.
exactly.
Totally. Yep.
And so that's
That's
all Hara Chakra really is just sort of that description of in between your root and your sacral. So the root being I am, and then the sacral being who am I in the context of my community. Hara Chakra is sort of in between that, kind of establishing the connection.
definitely.
Yeah, anyway.
You're so on the same wave because the chakras, the colors, as a fellow artist, you already know, and as a, any type of like Reiki practitioner, or, I'm literally like focused on specific colors and chakras to send like the aurora borealis. It's like electromagnetic energy, and with our focus, our intention, with certain colors connected to certain areas, it's all real. It's all being debunked, like you said, totally.
What are your thoughts about the aurora being visible so far south? Like when I was growing up, you would
Oh, right.
to actually see it, but like when I was in Michigan this past summer, it was visible in Michigan, and I work really long hours, and I looked over outside and the sky was pink, and I was like, I got my daughter, and she was like, no way. So then she put her phone up, and you could see a full spectrum of color on the phone you couldn't see with your naked eye. It was
Wow,
bizarre. It was really weird. And I'm like,
definitely.
why is this visible in Michigan right now? Was it visible in New York?
The first thing that I think of, it no, it wouldn't be. I've never personally, I've had more CE5 experience with like light ships and beings than I have
Oh,
with specifically
yes.
auroras, right? But when it comes to the auroras and the electromagnetic energy, the first thing I think of is like the layers of the atmosphere, and how, 2020 was this awareness of our 2020 vision, and how we have this perception of humanity as a planet, and our planet being quarantined in a way from the rest of the galaxies. It makes me think of like the layers of the veil, if you will, right, is being lifted. And so we're more able to see within ourselves how multidimensional, how electromagnetic we are. And so it would make sense that we're more able now to see this reflected back from us in the atmosphere, because it's like the layers of the veil is thinning. We're
Yeah.
more able to see like the what's always been there, or I don't know.
So going back to CE5, like I watched all these documentaries about it. I think at the time it was like, I can't remember, maybe James Gilliland or something like that. He has a
Interesting.
ranch in Mount Shasta where they are a group of people, and they go out and meditate together with military version night goggles. Is that what
Yes,
you did, or is that a different?
yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the same, right in alignment with CE5 protocols, I would say, because there's ways of mixing like technologies like EMF detectors, night vision goggles, the same way I would say that you use your phone to see the the way your daughter picks up the certain things in the phone that, the regular naked eye could not detect. I think it's very similar what they're doing with technology, with like EMF detectors and things like that. I personally don't have too much experience with the tech um, part of that, but more with like the meditation practice and the whole point of it. I think Mount Shasta is obviously definitely aligned with just the meditative, peaceful practice of coming to a state of pure, unbounded consciousness, and then inviting in that being the contact of the fifth kind. It's like the human initiated invitation
Hmm.
of um any like light being or ship or experience that is for our highest greatest good. And that's where like meditation, intention, all of that comes in, because the experiences, whether you are healed in some way, you sense something, or if you visualize, you have a visual experience of a light ship or something, the point is that you have done the inner work of attracting something that is a beneficial meeting or experience, because it's coming from a pure consciousness, pure intention of a place that's within us, that's an inner standing within us, that's very meditative. So Mount Shasta, definitely the folks that I see like working there seem to be totally in alignment with CE5.
Mhm. How do you define CE5? Is it like a state of, what does it stand for?
It's the human facilitated contact with extraterrestrial or, light beings or light ships. But the fifth kind is about, us initiating, like a welcoming, because CE3, I guess you could say, like close encounters of the third kind would be, just seeing something randomly that you didn't expect.
Mhm.
And then I think the fourth kind is seeing a being or like an active consciousness that you didn't expect. I'm not exactly sure, but I know it stands for close encounters of the fifth kind.
Yeah, I remember actually, one of my good friends, her name's Dr. Susanna Med. Shout out to Dr. Susanna Med. She did CE5 back in 2021. We had a whole series of podcasts we did together, and then she
Oh, wow.
left to go do that and
Mhm.
was going to talk about the experience. And then I think we sort of lost touch. Like I went to Florida and then she went to like overseas or something, but she's highly in
Right.
touch with that as well. And she was located out, I want to say in California. I don't know. My memory is really,
Oh, wow.
I'm going to reach out to her though. But
Totally.
so, no,
Oh,
that's
I'm so
awesome.
sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but my battery is low, and so I have to
Oh, yeah.
I find that you've created for, if you want to continue to create card decks that are um, have like a focus or a theme that's connected with grounding and the body's our meridians and our health and then the earth's meridians and ley lines. I think it's just a brilliant focus.
I think it's like,
Yeah.
very ancient. It's honestly like not my idea. It's like the yantras are actual, do you know what a yantra is? It's essentially like the symbol that's within the chakra.
Oh, yes, I do.
So
Yep.
basically that's like what the form takes shape when there's sound and there's particles. And then like that
Okay,
would be,
matter.
yeah, and like the ancients knew that and modeled all of their temples and stuff like based off of that.
Wow.
It's almost like they had some sort of psychic ability that was lost in a couple of hundreds of generations or something.
Definitely. Lost in translation. I think. I mean, religions are similar, right? Because, well, the oldest religion, the Hindu chakra system and the colors and everything that's involved with this, it's so ancient. So in a way, it's your creation, but it's also something you've channeled, I think, which is really similar to what crop circles are. I think there so many of them like this one from Australia is totally unexplained. I've never found a land artist online or anyone that's, taken credit for creating this. And it's something that has the flower of life as well as
Yeah.
the Vesica Pisces in it. If you look at the photography, it's so perfect. The
Hmm.
shape and the field, it's like, um, yeah, it's definitely something that you've channeled with ancient wisdom,
Are
100%.
you familiar with like the Nazca lines in Peru?
I'm familiar with that whole happening and story. I remember when I was working for Greenpeace, it was one of the first things that people were concerned about. Peru is connected to these ancient civilizations as well.
Is there like, do you feel like a meaning from them or like some kind of energy from them?
Oh, definitely, for
They
sure. I
look
mean,
like
I'm
crop
sure
circles, some of them.
yeah,
There was like an
definitely.
eagle, there was like a spider or something. I love
And that makes
them.
so much sense because the ancient Hopi prophecies about the spider and the web, just like you were talking about with the World Wide Web, our connection with the internet and how it's changed us and everything. It's definitely symbolic. It's all symbols of the web of creation and how we are the creators.
We did a podcast a little while ago about the Serpent Mound in Ohio. It's like a earthwork
Oh,
mound site.
okay.
It's like a serpent, and basically, there were
Oh, yes.
bathroom bones. Yeah, like there was a lot of stuff
Yeah.
down there, and then
Yep.
and it directly mirrors like the celestial bodies or whatever,
Yes.
and
I
that was
am familiar with that.
huge for me.
Yeah.
That's a big connection because I came to Florida and actually went to the mounds because I really wanted to understand. Like I was just so curious: are they pyramids? Like what are these things? There was a specific one where we felt some really weird energy. And then there was another one where it was like way different. It was like super peaceful. But that guy that I sent you that video about Hollywood, Florida, he did another documentary about how the mounds each correspond with the sign of Pisces in Florida. So
What?
yeah, and like Florida's birthday is during Pisces season or whatever. Like he was making all these different connections. And I was like,
Wow.
that's so wild. Like, and then he tied it in with like Ford, and what's the other guy? Firestone, like the rubber guy that makes the tires, whatever, all these old school guys, Flagler, Henry Flagler, and they all did what was called the Celestial Road Tour, where they took like a Ford Model T and they drove it around Florida to these different mound sites. And
Oh,
he was trying to understand why they would do that. Like, what would be the purpose of doing that? But they might have known that maybe there was energy harvested at these places, or I don't know. There's a myriad theories we could get into, but I just
totally.
like know your opinion about the crop circles in relation to that. Like, do you think that it's specific to the earth, or is it like corresponding with something in the sky potentially?
Yeah, I think it's well, it's definitely both because there's a cosmic connection. Um, but as far as the Earth's ley lines and the Earth's grids and what could potentially, there's theories that there's crystals underneath some of the crop circles, like large, like clear quartz, double terminated crystals underneath some of them to activate certain, who knows what. I think the theories are like unlimited and there's so many. But I think with all the theories that are surfacing and with how many people are drawn to just the magnetic symbolism of them and the vast amount of how many crop circles have been made over the decades. Each spring and summer are like the most active seasons for finding these crop circles all over the world, but there's just so many. If you go in the database, it's really mind blowing to see just the vast like how many different ones and how many like detailed ones there are. So it's kind of it's infinite as far as like the theories of all the different ones, how they're created, what they're connected to, which just adds to the mystery of it. But
Yeah.
I think with ley lines and grid lines, I think we're only really scratching the surface to what we're about to discover with, now that we have AI, now that we have this technological advancement merging with our spiritual awareness, like we were talking about before, how like ChatGPT right now, if we talk to it about quantum physics, metaphysics, it's like, oh, well, there's these theories, but we don't really know. We already, as human beings, kind of have more of a spiritual advancement than our AI technology has. And so there's a gap there that I think as we continue to shift and integrate, we're going to discover something remarkable about the crop circles and the Earth's grid that I personally, I don't know exactly for sure, but I know that it's all connected. And I know that there's something to do with meridian lines of the earth connected to the meridian lines of the body that it's just I'm 100% sure. I'm not 99% sure. I'm 100% sure that there's a connection between what you've channeled with the body meridians and the earth's meridians. It's just it's a knowing because the same way our veins and our nervous system mirrors lightning in the sky, tree branches, like all of these patterns are also mirrored in science and symbolism with the flower of life, the building of all creation, the third eye chakra being the blueprint um for sacred geometry. You know, if I close my eyes and sit in the sun, I've been seeing these geometries ever since the peyote ceremony I told you about. I shared with you about it's here. That's like a blueprint and a connection that we have to the geometry and the shapes that actually create like the underlying energy for all of our cities, all of like Florida, everything we've talked about in Florida. Yeah, which also it makes me think of the Bermuda Triangle, the
Yeah,
Florida, Bermuda, and I think it's Puerto Rico, the connection there.
for
It's
sure.
another profound one, you know? Yeah, but 100%, I know there's something that we've yet to discover about the Earth's ley lines and these symbolic messages. I
Mm.
think so much of it is just something that personally I can't put into words yet, which is why I put it into art. And so, yeah.
Yeah. It's just, it was like, you've been on this for a hot minute though. You know what I mean? Like you channeled the information
I,
really early on.
I feel like whenever I'm talking to some of the land artists or people that have been studying for so many more decades than I have, I feel like I'm just beginning my discovery and my findings. But at the same time, since like 2015, 2016, it's so funny that it mirrors what you shared with me, your time of that awakening. That was definitely when, I started diving into all of this. And with paintings, I started with handmade paintings. Oh my gosh, I'm guided to share a really specific, one of the first really profound synchronicities that I had, of so many. But one of the first with a handmade painting that I made with a crop circle that reminded me, as soon as I saw it, it reminded me of sonar like the dolphins and whales have. Um, and so I made like a big acrylic painting with like these murky kind of like greens and dark blues, and an orca killer whale because I love them. And I put this crop circle over the whale because it looked like a sonar. And I don't know, I was vibing with that and I was painting with that. And then after I finished the painting, I remember I made a post. This was in like 2019 or 2020, probably 2020. I made a post that I was just thinking about, and I found this crop circle in a little book that I had, the only little book I had of crop circles at the time, by Michael Glickman. And there wasn't really any information on it. It was just the date, where it was from, crop circle. Um, and so I decided to make a whale and all this with it. Um, and I posted um, a picture of the painting and then also for whatever reason, because it was like murky green colors or whatever, I decided to post a picture of like Mother Earth saying, clean up after yourself, take care of yourself, love Mother, like a note on the planet Earth. And then also a link I put to one of the Greenpeace campaigns from like years ago that was cleaning up an oil spill.
Mm.
I forget if it was like in the Gulf of Mexico spill, the really bad one from like the 80s, or I forget which one it was, but I just, I wanted to just share something random and that's what I decided to paint and then post and share. And then I found out years later, I think 3 years later, so this was in like 2023 or 2020, yeah, 2023. in a book by Freddie Silva that I got later, which is one of my favorite books of crop circles of all time. It's called Secrets in the Fields by Freddie
I
Silva.
gotta read that.
What a genius. Oh my goodness. If you resonate with David Wilcox,
I mean,
it's
yeah.
so similar. Oh
David
my God, it's
Boy.
so connected. It's so similar.
Mm,
Um, and so this Freddie Silva, someone that's a researcher of sacred sites around the world, just in line with everything we're diving into. And I found out that that crop circle that I decided to intuitively just paint a whale and this connect it to this oil spill and all that. It was found, I found out in this book years later that it was found the day after an oil spill, a huge oil spill in Kuwait.
mm,
And it was found um, that the Hopi people had seen this crop circle when it was found in 2009, I want to say, or maybe earlier, maybe it was like 2005. I have to look back, but I remember it was the day after like a major oil spill had happened. So there was that confirmation that I had intuitively channeled specifically an oil spill. It's just ironic. It's something that's damaging the land. And so then you have literally a message that's found in the land. It wasn't found in Kuwait. I think it was found in I don't think it was found in England either. I have to go back the date and the location of this one. But um it was just a huge synchronicity that how did I know that it was connected to an oil spill? And then the Hopi people recognized this crop circle at some point. Freddie Silva had found and had told people that the crop circle's message was saying that mother is crying. That is how the Hopi people had translated this crop circle
interesting.
specifically. So that was one of my first experiences when I realized that okay, these definitely hold messages.
Mm,
These definitely, it's too profound of a specific. An oil spill is such a specific, instance. How did I connect a whale and these colors and an oil spill before I found this book? And so this is also how, it's deeply personal because when you have these, as you know, but it's much harder to explain to someone that doesn't have like experience with synchronicities, right? It becomes like a personal journey or experience because you're the one that's receiving this confirmation of what you intuitively channeled.
yeah.
And so that's how I know, it's something that just resonates when you make a connection like this, like you have with the body meridians, the earth meridians. It's just something that kind of clicks. It's like a connection that even if there's aspects of it that have yet to be discovered, man, when we discover it, it's going to be profound.
Yeah, exactly. And
Like
there's
it's
always a rooted source of truth in whatever point we might have found ourselves in. And that's what the resonance is, like literally a resonance, because energy can't lie.
energy doesn't lie.
Energy
That's
just,
so true.
that's right.
Yep,
So,
totally.
okay, yeah, we're gonna do our collaboration, but I kind of want to keep that like as a baby right now. You know, when you don't take your baby outside.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna be so good because we're so aligned. Like, and in all honesty, I was so scared to share the cards, but I'm so happy that you received
Wow.
this way because like I mean,
Yeah.
it's both of ours together and then also divinity. So there's no reason for me to feel that way, but I think it's because sometimes we get attached as humans to like it needs to look a certain way, it needs to be a certain way. But I will say
Oh,
that
girl, don't I know? Like
yes, as an artist, yeah.
trust me, if I didn't have like my little perfectionist issues with my art, like I'd be making like so much more often, but I'm the same way. Like I have to like analyze and analyze. So I completely understand. Yeah.
But it's almost like a human flaw in a way, because like if art is divinely channeled, then who are we? We're just the channel. It's like it would be like my pen criticizing what it looks like when it hits the paper. Like it doesn't make any sense. And that's what I realized when you receive the cards. And the people who did already get cards really resonated with them. Like it's not just a little bit and they're like, "Oh, okay." It was like really resonating, but it's such a small amount of people. And I was telling my friend about that because I was like, I think like because I'm in sales, that's what I do. And I like run a business, so I'm very like you have to be numbers oriented. I'm like, it's so weird. I just don't think like the numbers are ever going to be high on something like this. And he said, well, there's only like 144,000 like starseed or whatever, like wandering souls. And that's not that many people. Like if you really think about it, that's not that many people. So for me, it's not really about um like quantity. It would be more of who is it resonating with and like what impact is that having, because you're going to go forth and create based upon the inspiration gained from that. And I feel that way about almost all art that I have.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I think there's definitely, it's interesting you mentioned the 144,000. I think there are so many millions of different kinds of star seeds and people that resonate with being a star seed now that it's kind of unlimited and unbounded to how it could grow or how it could transform, which is why, a project starting as a baby, exactly, like we have to nurture it in a way. It can't go outside right away. Like I completely resonate with that. Because in all of the co-creations that I've been honored to create, whether it's for what I found the most is for like sound healers and meditation coaches and like anyone that has a spiritual business and is making this connection between the earth's abundance and our abundance and what we can share and what we can co-create with the spiritual and with the metaphysical and the quantum. Um, there's this aspect of like uplifting one another, when we share ideas and we collaborate, there's this aspect of like, um, yeah, just growing and expanding and continuing to like uplift um the work and not the work, the focus really of your yoga and movement and meridians and like this to me it's a focus that inspires action. It inspires holistic health. It inspires earthing and grounding. And so it's such an important key focus that you're able to share and teach about and inspire. And then the crop circles are, I mean, they're not my crop circles. And that's the beauty of the crop circles is that they're created by so many artists all over the world that purposely choose to be anonymous, or really, really low key for the purpose of the mystery of it, as well as the ET beings and the light beings and the sound orbs and beings that create crop circles as well, that have been documented and proven to create them. They're completely anonymous because they're not
They don't.
landing on and
Right.
introducing it because it's not how our evolution is. Just it's not an overnight, it's a process. It's not an overnight occurrence that the ETs are all going to land and introduce themselves. So all the different infinite kinds of multidimensional beings, it's like it's similar to how even with all of the issues of capitalism, in reality, no one owns the land. I think the crop circles are a symbol of art that's very similar. No one owns the crop circles. And so it's been a really fascinating journey since I when I first made the digital art Instagram page, like in 2020, I first called it flight circles because
Mm,
I don't know, I like birds. I was like experimenting with the ones that have the birds, like this one. And it was just an experimentation at first. But then I had this desire to find more people like Spirit STEM, like Melissa, right? Like everyone that I've met that resonates with these, that creates these incredible channeled connections. Um, I wanted to find more people that I could have more of these experiences and co-creations with. And so
yeah,
that's why I chose to call it Crop Circles Art. And I was so scared to because I was like, well, this has nothing to do with me. Like, I'm not creating crop circles. Like, what does this have to do with me? But I'm so passionate about them. I can't stop researching them and experimenting with them and making art with them every day. I want to find more people that will also, share their experiences. And that's exactly what I found. Like
that's
just all over the world, the people that I've been honored to like chat with and co-create with, and just it's like this never-ending continuation spiral of learning, which I'm so addicted to learning,
mhm.
and the co-creation collaboration aspect of it, which we gotta like continue to move into away
Yeah.
from the programming, the division, because that's what keeps us in this like two-stranded DNA operable programming. If we're all divided as human beings, we're like controllable sheep. But if we come together, it's the ocean wave. It's the all the drops in the ocean coming together to create like a real change and a real momentum, I think.
Yeah. I love that. That's a beautiful note to end on. Thank you so much. I have such a good idea that I want to share with you, so I want to wrap. But thank you so much. I'm gonna put this everywhere. Everybody check out JJ at Circles Art on Instagram and also on
Thank
Etsy. Thank you so
you.
much, JJ.